afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Brecken Branchtrader, and I'm the Senior Editor of Gemstones at National Jeweler. I'm pleased to welcome you to the latest episode of My Next Question, National Jeweler's new webinar series, sponsored by RDI Diamonds. Today's session is hosted by our Editor-in-Chief, Michelle Graff, and features Faye Druiz and John Nicolosi. Before I turn it over to Michelle to get the webinar started, I just wanted to let our attendees know that if they have a question, they can type it into the Zoom Q&A box. I will be back on at the end of the discussion to share the questions with Michelle and our panelists. Also, today's session is being recorded and will be featured in our special edition Diamonds Quarterly newsletter coming out on Wednesday, July 21st. Now I'll turn it over to Michelle and I'll be back to field any questions at the end. Thank you.
Brecken, thank you so much for the introduction. And John and Faye, thank you for joining me today. A little housekeeping note before we begin. We were supposed to have 4 panelists today. Unfortunately, Melody Bradford, one of our panelists, reached out to me yesterday to let me know she had a work conflict and wouldn't be joining us. And we're hopeful that Jen Tudor, our 4th panelist, will tune in at some point. First, John and Faye, since you're coming on as consumers, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, what you do, and who you are? John, we'll start with you.
Sure. Thanks to Michelle and her team and National Jeweler for having us on. I'm John Nicolosi. I live on Long Island, and I work for a pharmaceutical company in New York City.
Okay, wonderful. And John, I've asked you this before, so I'll just announce, John is not related to Christy Nicolosi of the Kingswood Company. And he says he comes on to jewelry webinars and gets that question a lot. So,
right.
Faye, you're with me here in Brooklyn. Tell people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Faye. I've been in the fashion jewelry and watch industry for my entire life. I specialize in consumer marketing, sort of creative marketing, how to get the message across that a brand wants to say, and it can be in a variety of mediums. And right now I work for a design firm that works on retail spaces.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. So before we get into any specific questions here about diamonds, I want to hear a little bit about your relationship to jewelry in general. How much you own, what you like, and how often you buy jewelry. And when I'm talking about jewelry, I'm talking about fine jewelry, higher end jewelry. And Faye, since you have some background here, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. Well, I would say the majority of my collection is fashion jewelry because I was fashion jewelry oriented. For my fine jewelry, I think for the most part, most of the pieces I own are like orphan pieces.
I'm sorry, what pieces?
Sort of like orphans, like I find them along the way. I haven't bought too many retail, although I usually look for something special that I sort of find, and it could be at a jeweler's, in a jewelry store, or something online. It could be something from eBay, something that really sort of finds me is how I look at it.
And do you ever do any shopping on like Etsy? I know I have a lot of friends who shop on there and they like some of the stuff they find there.
I don't, but I look just about everywhere else. I mean, I just look at all websites all the time, all brands. I work with several brands now that are real jewelry, fine jewelry. So I'm constantly looking, and right now I'm collecting stackable sort of diamond rings.
Okay, very cool. John, what about you in jewelry? How much do you own, how often you buy, and what do you like?
I don't have too many pieces. I have a couple of rings that I have that I bought actually online. eBay and Ruby Lane was another place I bought a ring from.
Interesting. So you both look on eBay.
Yeah, and Etsy too. I look on Etsy also.
Okay.
And I have a couple bracelets, or one I bought, one was a gift to me. And then I have one necklace and a few watches. But I haven't I have bought jewelry for myself. I mean, in years and years. It might have been just one piece out of a few pieces out of all those that I bought. And I haven't bought anything recently in years. So whatever I have, I have.
So do you, question for both of you, and John, I'll start with you on this one. Do you buy jewelry for other people?
Yeah, usually, I tend to buy jewelry for other people for most occasions. whether it's birthday or Mother's Day or Christmas, I'll tend to buy a piece of jewelry in addition to other gifts. So, and it could be silver or gold, something that just catches my fancy. But yeah, usually it's on the list for gift giving for me when I buy for someone else.
Faye, what about you?
Okay, so I'm totally the opposite. I buy solely for myself, although now there is a new person in our immediate family, so I am thinking about her as well, but I buy for myself.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. I buy for myself as well. So where do you go to learn about new jewelry and or designers you might like? You both mentioned eBay, but what about places like Instagram, Facebook? I mean, Facebook, now serves, you look at anything on your computer and 5 minutes later it's served up to you on your Facebook page. Jewelry stores, magazines, friends. I mean, John, you haven't bought anything in a while, but when you did, where did you kind of go? Because you both seem to like unique stuff. That's what I'm getting here. You're not looking for kind of traditional classic pieces. You're looking for something that catches your eye. Where would you say you go to find jewelry you like?
So I belong to a few social media, jewelry industry groups on Facebook and Instagram. So I see a lot from there. I subscribe to a few trade magazines, so I see latest trends and designers there. Also, I'll put on some home shopping networks sometimes and catch, just to kind of keep up with the latest trends. They seem to have like the latest trends on there, like JTV and QVC, a few other ones. Just I'll tune into it every now and then and see what the latest trends are. I've also I'm a member of a few trade email groups that I belong to, and there's a lot of information there, but a lot of it is actually social media, Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
And John, I know you and I chatted about this offline, but you want to explain a little bit of people, you're not in the jewelry industry, but why you get trade magazines and trade groups, because I mean, that's very specific. Not all consumers look at JCK or look at National Jeweler or look at in-store.
Right. Yeah. So so I'm not in the jewelry industry. No one in my family is, but I've always had an interest in gems and jewelry. It started way back when, going to rock shows and picking up some shells on the beach. And then I've taken GIA courses and Rappaport courses, and watched webinars. And I've always had an interest in joining the industry. So I'm looking to possibly join the industry on a part-time basis in the future, maybe a few days a week, working remotely also. With maybe, so I'm interested in the store itself, but I'm also interested in like store operations and and age inventory and price points and sales and running reports and analyzing reports, which you could do remotely. So I'm interested in that portion also. So that's where my interest comes from.
That's really cool. What about the jewelry industry specifically like attracts you, do you think?
I like this. It starts with the gemstones and the diamonds. That aspect of it. That's what drew me in originally, and that's kind of what got me into it and keeps my interest in it. And that's kind of what's driving the interest, and also the designs of pieces too. And that I'm interested in that, the different designs and what catches on, what doesn't, like the Journey pendant years ago, and like paperclip
programs.
Yeah, like paperclip chains now, which kind of just they come out of left field, and all of a sudden it's just all over the place. So I like keeping up with the trends also.
Well, that's really cool. And John, by the way, is a National Jeweler, my next question, super fan. He logs on into almost all our webinars, so we're so happy to have you as a guest today.
Yeah, thank you.
Faye, same question to you, and just to reiterate, where you go to learn about new jewelry or designers you most like, kind of social media versus what we'll call traditional media?
I do both.
Okay.
I would say I'm online all day, every single day. I'm on the weekend as well. I am for business, and I also enjoy it. So I'll look everywhere. When we work with clients, I do a real deep dive into all their products, everything. So I'll look at all their rings, all their earrings, all their necklaces, and I'll look to see what their competitors are doing. And I'll look to see, what stylists are showing on Instagram, what people are wearing on Facebook, what I see in, just about anywhere, and certainly in any kind of movies or TV or people on the street, or, I mean, it's everywhere. Everyone wears jewelry, and
Very true. I mean, if you ride the subway in New York, you can see tons of great jewelry.
I think John has a really interesting point, about the paperclip design. You see it once and it's like, wow, this is kind of interesting, or the locks, you see it once, and then all of a sudden it's like everywhere. And how did everyone think of the same idea at the same time? And I've always thought that, even about watches, my background in watches, a diamond bezel, and everyone does the diamond bezel. How does everyone at the same time? So
yeah, and for me, I'm also interested in like the whole pipeline, from like mine to market, midstream, manufacturers, and the mining companies, and the cutters, and the whole industry, from like, from mine to market, the whole pipeline. I have an interest in to learn. It's a fascinating industry, and it's global, which is it's so many moving parts, and you're in any jewelry store in Main Street, USA, and it could have been, the diamond could have been mined in Russia or Africa and cut in India, and and now it's in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, it is, in addition to jewelry just being beautiful, it is a really interesting industry. I'm really happy and blessed to be a part of it. Now let's talk about the topic we all came here to discuss today, diamonds. First, I'm gonna start with the general question. When I say the word diamonds, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Sparkle.
Sparkle, okay.
Yeah, natural diamond, rarity, beauty.
Okay, so that's the first thing you think of but it seems to be a positive reference, like nothing negative. It seems to be positive as the first thing that comes to mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So when was the last time you bought a piece of diamond jewelry, and what was the occasion? And Faye, I think it's probably for yourself, but do you remember the last time you bought a piece of diamond jewelry, and was it for something specific or just because?
It was maybe about a month ago. I would say every 3 months I'll add something. They're not particularly very expensive, but there's something about it that I like, or they work with other pieces. And it was just something I saw.
And where did you see it? Can you tell us? I mean, tell us as much as you're comfortable. Where did you see it? Did you see it online and buy it in a store? Or was the whole experience online?
I bought it on eBay, actually, but I've been looking at, as I said, I have three now clients, jewelry clients, and I'm beginning to look at their selection as well, to mix and match something new, something that has a history that I don't know about. How did that piece end up here? I always think about that. And if it has any, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, if it has any sort of bad vibrations about it or not.
No, I mean, that's completely normal. Like, provenance is it's of interest to a lot of people, provenance, and kind of like consumers today are very interested in where was this found, where was this made, how was it made, how did it get from point A to the showcase, and whether that's the jewelry that belonged to somebody famous and they're interested in that for a reason, or if they're interested for reasons of like environmental or ethical concerns. It's something a lot of people want to know about today, for sure. And John, last diamond jewelry purchase, and what was the occasion?
Yes, the last occasion was this past Mother's Day.
Okay. There were a lot of jewelry sales this past Mother's Day.
Yeah. And it was, I specifically went to a jewelry store to look for a piece for Mother's Day, a diamond necklace.
Oh, very nice. And why did you pick that?
I looked around at a lot of pieces in the store, and this one, I didn't go in there looking for a necklace, but a diamond piece, and this one caught my eye with the design and how it looked in the showcase. It caught my eye.
Very nice. And was the recipient happy with it?
Yeah, very happy. Yeah, very happy. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
And when you talk about like the story behind the piece, like in a jewelry store with the estate case, or people come in to look at that, and a lot of them want to know the story, like where did you get this, who owned it? And I guess for a jewelry store, that's that could be part of the storytelling to the consumer, to where they say that the experience is so important to a consumer in the jewelry store, not just rocks and metal. Where as a salesperson, that could be a good selling point too, is to know the story behind as many pieces as you can, especially the estate ones, if possible.
Right. No, I mean, that's absolutely true. And I think you're right. You're right, especially true with antique and estate pieces. Who did this come from? Why did they get rid of it? What happened to them? I mean, it gets especially interesting when you get into pieces like kind of the mourning jewelry, and they have people's names or people's initials in them. And I always wonder myself, like, oh, I wonder who this was and what happened.
Yeah. And sometimes, if it's engraved, it could be, with a person's two people, their name and a date, like a wedding date or a birthday date, or some people are interested in getting engraved pieces, and the story behind it.
Yeah, for sure. So have you both heard of what we came here to talk about today, more broadly, lab-grown diamonds? And I think you're both going to say yes. And so when and where, can you tell me, where did you first learn about them? When did you first become aware of lab-grown diamonds? And I mean, when I'm talking about lab-grown diamonds for jewelry, because lab-grown diamonds for industrial purposes have been around for a long time. Lab-grown diamonds for jewelry, less so. So when did you first remember learning about them? John, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. It was a few years ago, and it was in one of the trade magazines that I get. And there was articles coming out on lab-grown diamonds, and it's the next disruptor in the jewelry industry. And then on social media, it started. I started to see it also in the different trade groups I belong to, and I follow a lot of jewelry stores too, and they were sending out a lot of information in the beginning about lab-grown. They carry it and what it is and explaining it. And then again, on like JTV and the home shopping networks, they started to jump on that right away. And I started to see it on there also, all the different pieces, the advertising, and kind of like explaining it too, what it is and what it's about. And, it's a diamond, like trying to clarify that it is a diamond. And it's not like CZ or moissanite or anything like that. So I think, but the first places were the trade magazines. I started to see articles coming out about it.
Okay, Faye, what about you? Your history with lab-grown diamonds. Where did you first learn about them?
I think I first saw it as a banner walking into JCK. I don't know if it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And I remember thinking two things, like, who would ever want a lab-grown diamond? Sort of reminded me of genetically modified food. And I obviously thought it was fake. And I immediately thought, oh, they need a whole new marketing campaign. This is just a disaster. So that was my original feeling. I still feel the same way, actually.
So that's okay. So what is, I think you both are going to be able to answer this, but what is your understanding of what exactly a lab-grown diamond is? And I think you two will be able to answer, but I will say there's oftentimes I've found in just talking to friends that people have some confusion about what a lab-grown diamond is. So John, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell me what is a lab-grown diamond?
Yeah, so I was totally unsure what it was, in the beginning, and where is it made and how is it made? But just learning about it through the different trade organizations, and as it became more mainstream, they were publishing about how it's made in a laboratory. There's two different ways to make it. It's actually made from carbon, just like a diamond. I think it was physically and chemically and optically the same as a natural mined diamond. The only thing it's made in a laboratory, and so I think too when De Beers came out with their lab-grown diamond brand,
right. So that's for people, right? Lightbox, for people listening, he's talking about Lightbox, which I think was 2018 May 2018, right around the time of the JCK shows, was when that that news came out. But go ahead, Don. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think when that came out too, there was a lot of buzz about it because I was, De Beers coming out with a branded, lab-grown diamond. Yeah, so it took me a while to understand what it actually is. But then, just as they, different, they tried to, even lab-grown companies tried to, I think, break it down in the simplest terms for a consumer, saying, the bottom line is it is a diamond. I think that's like the message that they just want to put out there. It is a diamond just grown in a laboratory.
Yeah, and it seems like you think the trade did a good job of communicating what it is.
Yeah, I think so. I think as time went on, they got better and better at the messaging. And I think with De Beers coming out with Lightbox, it's interesting how they positioned it more as a fashion item, though, a lab grown, as opposed to like, maybe an engagement ring or a high-end piece of jewelry with a lab grown diamond in it.
Well, they have real diamonds. De Beers has natural diamonds for that.
Right.
Faye, tell me about your understanding about what a lab-grown diamond is and if there was initially any confusion. I'll just say, when I talked to my friends about it, my friends, they might know more now, but when I talked to them, they were initially confused about lab-grown diamond. They were like, was that the same as the CZ? And that's where their kind of confusion came in. So Faye, tell me a little bit about your experience learning about them.
As I mentioned, I thought that they were fake because of the name of it. And it's just, and the way it was marketed, that it was, to me, it was originally marketed as almost, I don't know how to describe it. I would say, like, you don't have to be ashamed to buy this. It's a real diamond, when it is a diamond. And the approach should have been more emotional and was much more technical. And John's right.
I think they really wanted to hammer home that point. This is a diamond, this is a diamond, this is a diamond. But you're right, that doesn't tend to appeal to people maybe as much as, just appealing to people's emotions and, buy this for a loved one, buy this for yourself.
When you think, I think you nailed it. When you think about why you buy a diamond, you bought it either for your mom or your wife or your daughter or for yourself. It's a gift to yourself. It's never, again, it falls under that genetically modified food category. You want a bigger banana or a bigger orange, but you don't want it made in a lab with, zapping in a microwave. It was very cold, and it's still, I think, with the word lab, it just implies Frankenstein, and it doesn't imply I love you. This is a gift to myself, a gift to somebody that I love. It's something to cherish. It's something that a diamond, like a watch, is something that somebody looks at every single day. Every single day you're wearing it, you look at your hand. I want something that says real, I love it, not lab created.
No,
yeah, I agree. And I see, I get the feeling like someone is either open to a lab grown diamond or they're not. It's hard to convince them to buy a lab grown instead of a mined diamond. Because of what Faye was saying about that, almost like the Frankenstein, creation of a diamond.
Well,
I mean, people, and there are people who would argue that lab grown isn't even the correct term, because where they're technically grown is, people would say that it's more of a factory, and they let them call them lab grown. And I'm remaining neutral during this webinar. We're not going to discuss my thoughts on lab grown diamonds, but that's an argument within the industry as well, that when you think of a laboratory, I anyway think of scientists in white coats and beakers, and where these diamonds are really grown, even though some people have tried to call them greenhouses, it's a factory, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong. Many, many, many things, almost everything we have is made in a factory, but that's one of the arguments. And I'm sorry, Faye, you were going to say something.
I just wanted to say I'm absolutely 100% for either kind of diamond. I have most diamond purchases are not made as investment purchases. So lab-grown diamonds are less expensive. They may be better for the environment. That is questionable. I'm not qualified to answer that, but a diamond is a diamond. That's I feel.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting segue because, I mean, John, I'll let you jump in, but then we're going to get into your purchasing intentions. But John, go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, I think it's the lab grown synthetic diamonds, whatever, people use different
Nomenclature.
adjectives, to describe it. But I think it's an option for consumers. That's another option for consumers. It's there if you want it, and you can learn about it, and you make the decision.
Yeah. So I want to get into purchasing intentions, and I'm going to break this down in categories. And the way I'm going to break it down in categories is kind of how we look at categories in the jewelry industry. So we'll start with which is undoubtedly kind of the biggest category for jewelry sales, engagement rings. So pretend you're somebody getting engaged today. Would you buy or would you want a lab grown diamond for your engagement ring? Why or why not?
Should I start?
Yeah, Faye, go ahead.
Absolutely.
And you can also relate if you know anybody who's gotten engaged recently and you want to kind of incorporate that in your answer, that's fine as well.
I would absolutely consider it for myself because it is a real diamond. It's not a synthetic diamond. It is a real diamond, and
technically it is a synthetic diamond. Yes, it's lab grown, it's synthetic, but yes, it is a diamond. It's not a diamond.
Okay. I would certainly be interested in it. It's a little less expensive, which is a nice touch. A diamond that I would buy as an engagement ring or get as an engagement ring may not be an investment level diamond. So, and I'm told, I really don't know, that most jewelers or all jewelers cannot tell the difference between. So.
Well, yeah, it is a diamond. They have to use equipment to tell the difference between. They can't, if you bring it into the store and show it, they can't just look at it and say, yes, this is lab grown. So yeah, that's true. I mean, the differences definitely can be told, but it's not obvious as if you bring it in and someone can just look at it and say, oh, that's lab grown. So that's interesting. And you keep mentioning, Faye, we're gonna talk about value in a minute. That's an interesting point about it's not an investment purchase. We'll come back to that. So John, pretend you're getting engaged. Would you want or buy a lab grown diamond?
Well, they do have male engagement rings now, right?
Yes, Tiffany does. Those are not lab grown diamonds. It's Tiffany, of course. So
yeah,
they're very nice. I don't know if you probably saw them.
Yeah, I saw some styles.
National Jeweler. Yeah, they're nice, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They are nice. Yeah, for me personally, I don't think a lab grown diamond would be something I'd want for an engagement ring. If I was, on the receiving end. I wouldn't ask for that, or I might make it clear that I don't want a lab grown diamond.
Okay, why?
I'd probably make it clear. So there's no doubt, no question. I think a natural diamond, it just has more emotional value to it. It's rarer. I think for me, it's the emotional value attached to a natural diamond versus a lab grown diamond, which I consider more like more fashion oriented for me. That's my feeling. It's not right or wrong, just my feeling. That's how I look at it. It's almost like a CZ or cubic zirconia or something, and that's kind of how I look at it in a way.
Okay, all right. What about then, and Faye, we'll start with you, but what if you were going to would you buy or want a lab grown diamond for what I would call a major milestone gift, your 25th wedding anniversary, for example?
Sure. I think that the emotional attachment to a ring or something that is set with the diamond is based, for me, more on who gives it to me or who I give it to and where I wear it and occasions that I've worn it to. But I do understand John's point of view, certainly. And I just feel differently on that.
Now, do either of you know anyone, this is kind of good jump back to the engagement ring question, know anyone recently engaged and are they interested in a lab grown diamond?
I know someone who may be interested. Okay, so who has not popped the question yet, so I'll keep the person unknown, but I think he certainly would be, and she certainly would be up for it.
Okay. Okay, John,
Yeah,
same
I don't know
thoughts on,
anybody. I don't know
go
anybody
ahead.
recently engaged, so I'm not sure about that. And just the preference of lab grown and natural diamond. Sometimes you wonder if there's sometimes if there's an age bracket that may be more open to a lab grown diamond versus a natural diamond, like maybe younger people. I don't know, maybe open to possibly a lab grown versus a mine diamond, or
Why do you think that is?
um, I'm not sure if there's the environmental concerns that they feel it's better on the environment, lab grown production than a mine diamond. You're not digging a hole in the earth. The sustainability part of it also, about why they might be open to more. A younger person might be open to maybe a lab grown diamond versus a mine diamond. So I'm not sure if there's anything goes out there on that, but
yeah, I was going to say on the environmental front, I think the best way, because growing diamonds in a factory is not without energy use, is not
right.
without consumption, it's not without its impact. I think Rob Bates has written about this probably the best, kind of urging people to look at how the diamond is produced, whether natural or lab grown, on an individual basis. And, not just say, well, all lab grown diamonds are green. And that's not necessarily true. I mean, it's something that I think needs to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, not just labeling all of one group as this and all of the other group as the other. So the last question I had, lab-grown diamond for less expensive piece of fun jewelry. I think you're both going to say yes. John, this seems to be like what you like the stones for, kind of a fashion piece that's just meant for kind of everyday fun, maybe a little gift to yourself. And Faye, you seem open for lab-grown diamonds in all cases.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, for fun fashion jewelry, I'm definitely open to it.
Okay. Well, that is all of my questions, but I'm going to flip it over to Brecken because I know we've had a couple questions come in during the course of the discussion, and we had at least 20 questions come in before we started today. So Brecken, are we ready with questions?
We are ready. Thank you so much, guys, for that great conversation. It's so interesting to get your insights into the product of lab-grown diamonds. So before we do that, as a reminder, our viewers can still type their questions into the Zoom Q&A box, and I'll try to get as many as possible before we finish up. While we compile the Q&A, I just wanted to say a quick word about RDI diamonds. RDI diamonds, the selection you want, the quality you need. Thousands of diamonds, that's just the beginning. RDI offers a wide range of services and support to help you succeed. From flexible memo options, a partnership with De Beers Group Industry Services, to generous stock options and cost-efficient shipping, RDI's goal is to provide the highest quality of both care and diamonds to your store. Visit rdidiamonds.com today to learn more. Now let's get started with our questions. I just wanted to quickly ask first, somebody wanted to know if you guys were wearing diamonds. Faye, specifically, if you had diamond studs in your ears.
I do have one. This was one that I just purchased, a lonely piece, but I do own a set as well.
I love that. I love when people are wondering what our panelists are wearing. And
Faye's getting trendy with the single earring.
I know, I love it. That asymmetric look, it's great. And we had a few questions come in about, what consumers knew about the future value of their diamonds, and specifically their lab-grown diamonds. So if you guys bought a lab-grown diamond, would you be concerned with its future value, or if it was worth, say, little to nothing and lost its value?
I think this is thank you, Brecken, for that question. This is such a big point of discussion in the industry, and I have thoughts because I've interviewed many people about this. But go ahead, just tell us as consumers what your thoughts about it. Like when you're buying a piece of diamond jewelry, are you thinking, oh, I can't wait to sell this 30 years down the road? I think I'm buying this because this is still going to be worth something 30 years down the road.
Yeah. I don't buy jewelry with that in mind at all. I buy the emotional piece of it and the excitement of looking for that right piece that I think the recipient's going to like, and I can't wait to present it and see the emotion when it's opened up and and looked at. So that's where I go when I buy a piece of jewelry. I don't even think of the resale value of it. Because I know a lot with the lab-grown diamonds, there's concern about the future resale value with so many producers coming online, and it's just flooding the market with lab grown. And if you go to try to sell it or whatever, the value is not going to be there compared to what you bought it for, and it's not going to hold it like a natural diamond. But for me personally, I don't buy it thinking about to trade it in or to resell it. I think about the emotional piece of it, and are they going to like it? And I can't wait to give it and see the reaction on the face. That's how I buy the jewelry I buy.
I think that's a really good way to approach it. Faye, thoughts on future value?
I think that a future value of all jewelry that regular people buy is just for emotion, and don't buy something. Hopefully you don't buy something to sell. You buy it to hold on to and maybe pass down to a daughter-in-law, a sister, someone. I think it's like a car. The minute you leave a jewelry store, the value does go down. So you really have to buy something that you love, that you want to look at all the time, or that has some sort of special meaning. Maybe it has a ruby next to it. It means something to someone. Jewelry is emotional. We really shouldn't, in our category, look at it as investments.
Right, unless some things at the very high end, like if somebody there was just a rough blue diamond, for example, it's 39 carats, it's sold for $40 million, but that's not what the average consumer is buying at the jewelry store to give for Mother's Day or for themselves or to give for an engagement ring. So
just on that topic, I saw some write-ups about does a jewelry store owner or a salesperson, when someone's buying a lab grown, are they obligated to mention about the value, and potentially it may not hold the value if the consumer doesn't ask?
I think that they're dissuaded from ever wading into value discussions because for various reasons, and that's kind of more of a Jewelers Vigilance Committee question, but we've done stories along these lines before, and I think they just tell them, just don't even go there, whether you're trying to say something's going to appreciate or depreciate. Don't put yourself in a position where you're giving financial advice. You're not licensed for it, and it's not a good idea.
Right, unless the consumer asks directly, maybe then the store owner would come over and talk to that point.
Word. I would probably just come over and say, we don't comment on future value, and leave it at that.
Right.
The less said on that, I think, the better. I'm sorry, Faye.
Yeah, I mean, really, how can you, somebody, let's take it out of diamond, somebody buys an emerald, first of all, is it lab treated color diamond, stone or not? But how can anyone determine what the value is going to be on a stone that is a carat or 2 carats large?
I mean, how does anyone determine the value? You can't, unless you're in that field and you're somebody that does prognostications for values for a living. Like, how is anybody else is really just guessing?
Right. And I think the jeweler tells you that something's going to triple or quadruple. Maybe you want to find a different jeweler.
We won't even go into the whole Druiz case, but I'm sure you both read about that. Bracken, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in here. More questions?
Yes, absolutely. You both, obviously, you talked about when you feel comfortable buying a lab grown and, in what situations, but somebody asked, would you feel comfortable telling someone that your diamond is lab grown?
Bracken, I guess they mean like when you buy it for someone?
Yes, sorry. I assume they mean if you were to purchase and you were wearing a lab grown and somebody asked you about your piece.
Okay.
Well, for me, if I wanted to tell them that, I would never say the words lab grown. I would say it's this diamond is a different process. It is a diamond. It's a different process. It's not mine. And then if they ask more, I would, whatever I could say about how the diamond was made, but I would stay very far away from that cold laboratory feeling that, I mean, they need a whole new marketing campaign.
Faye, as a professional marketer, Faye is not impressed.
It is amazing to me. I really feel that if they changed the title of it and re-merchandised it, it could be the biggest blowout ever.
Well, they are. I mean, we're not going to get fully into this because we're here just to talk about your consumer viewpoints, but there are Federal Trade Commission regulations about how they can reference it, when they can call it, so they can't go crazy coming up with like more, you know, consumer friendly sounding names. So I'll just throw that in there, but we're not going to go down the FTC hole here today. John, the question was, you know, if I guess, Brecken, I'm trying to understand the question again. If you're wearing a piece of lab grown diamond jewelry and someone just saw you and said, nice diamond necklace, nice diamond ring, is what they're asking, like, would you tell them it's lab grown, or do you just say thank you?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I would say thank you. I don't think I would, you know, I wouldn't tell them about the diamond, just the same way as I wouldn't say, oh, by the way, this is 10 karat gold, not 14 karat gold, you know, ring. Like I wouldn't say the metal content. You know, if they asked me, I would definitely tell them. I would nothing to hide. But, you know, just in general, I mean, you know, you don't typically, you know, talk about, oh, it's 14 versus 10 or 18 karat gold, you know. So yeah, I would say thank you, and that would be it. And if they ask me more about it, is that lab grown or natural, then I would, you know, I go into it from that point.
True. It's not the most organic point of using. Yeah, it's a lab grown diamond. Thank you for noticing and that kind of thing. Great point. Thank you both. I really appreciate that. And you know, Michelle asked about the last time that you guys had purchased diamond jewelry. And we had one audience member who wanted to know, and I thought this was interesting, and maybe I'll point this at you, John, first, who wanted to know, at the time when you were in that retail store, were you offered the choice of a lab grown diamond, or did you go in there even thinking about it? I mean, we talk a lot about, you know, sort of the retail sales end of it and how it's approached. So I'm curious to hear about your experience in that way.
Wow, that's a really good question. I should have asked that.
Yeah. So I went in there not open to lab grown. That was for sure.
Okay.
But when I walked in, and the salesperson, you know, came over to help me, nothing was mentioned about lab grown. I don't know if they carry lab grown at all. I'm not sure.
Did you see any signs or anything for anything lab grown?
No, I didn't see any signs. And no one, the salesperson who helped me didn't mention about, you know, oh, by the way, we carry lab grown. Do you know about them? Would you, let me show you some lab grown pieces, explain it to you. It wasn't mentioned at all. But again, I don't know if they even carry lab grown. I didn't see any signs or look for it or see signs in the showcase. But I went in there, you know, looking for natural diamonds.
Right. Okay, interesting. Thank you. And Faye, I don't know if you have anything to add to that in terms of your purchasing experiences and whether, you know, that's been a product that's been put in front of you.
Yeah, has that been a product you've come across? Like just in your searches as a consumer, not with your experience in the industry?
Not really. I think if I see it in an ad or something, I pass it by because I don't like the feel of what it says. But in a store, I would buy the design before I would buy, or the brand before I would buy the lab grown or regular. I'm more interested in the brand that it comes from or the look of the piece.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think if a jewelry store does also carry lab grown diamonds, I think they should present that as an option to the customer, because the customer may not know they carry it. They might not even have heard of lab grown diamonds. So I think it should be presented as an option to the customer and let the customer decide.
Yeah, but not all jewelry. I mean, that's if they carry them, right? Not
right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not many stores carry it at all.
Right. And for various reasons, some because they don't believe in the product, which is totally their choice. Some feel like their customer wouldn't be interested, or others might forego it because the jeweler down the street, their competitor carries them. And they say, well, that's their market. We're going to go this direction. I mean, I think there's myriad reasons that you may or may not carry them. And I think that's just like it's a choice for consumers. I think it's a choice for retailers. You've got to look at your customer base and your location and figure out if it's something you think you want to deal with, because
does it fit into your store, your culture, your customer base.
Exactly. Brecken, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting again.
Oh, that's okay. It's a great conversation. We talked about, of course, De Beers getting into the game in 2018, and I think this question is really pertinent. Does the entry into the field by people like De Beers have an impact on, you know, I guess your likelihood to look at a lab grown? Would you go for branded lines? Would that sort of help in your purchasing decision at all? Or would it ultimately just come down to, this is a lab grown, this is a natural?
I guess the De Beers getting into the game, like, I think part of what they're asking, like, increase your confidence in the product. Brecken, does that sound like a good interpretation?
Yes, I would think so, yeah. I mean, this one came in ahead of time, so I wasn't able to clarify, but I would assume that's what they mean.
It does for me. I think brand is very important. You're buying something expensive. I think brands stand behind their products. I think I would prefer a real diamond, but I absolutely would be open to a lab-grown diamond.
Okay. John, what about you and De Beers?
It doesn't sway me to go to a lab grown, even though it's De Beers, but I think it definitely brings the lab grown to the forefront for consumers and retailers and store owners alike. They see, hey, wow, De Beers is doing it.
Right.
But yeah, like Faye said, I think the brand behind the lab grown, like De Beers brand, I think that could definitely, make someone consider it. If they know De Beers name, I think they might consider a lab grown versus a natural, versus if it's just we just carry lab grown diamonds. But I think that De Beers name could help make some sales.
Yeah, I mean, I think from an industry perspective, their entry with light blocks definitely went a long way for legitimize. I mean, the product was already on the rise, but it really, like De Beers getting to the game, really opened the floodgates, so to speak. Because I feel like
it could have been like
after May 2018 that so many more brands came online and and I think that has a lot to do with people looking, and like you're saying, John, well, if De Beers is doing it, why am I not doing it?
And that could be a store owner's mentality. If De Beers comes out, wow, look, they're putting their name behind it. You know what? I'm gonna try it now.
Right. That seems to be the point when a lot more, producers jumped into the game. It was like after that, it was like a flood of people, which we've talked about how many producers there are in the market now. And then having the name De Beers from the consumer aspect as well. If you don't necessarily know about lab grown and you're not sure about it, and somebody like De Beers jumps in, what sort of mentality does that change for you? And not to get too off topic with lab grown diamonds into regular jewelry, but since we were in it, somebody wanted to know along the same lines, do you stick to non-branded jewelry, gemstones, and diamonds, or do you tend to lead towards major brands? I think this is probably what answer you just gave, but I'm sure all of our listeners would want to know this as well for your shopping habits.
For me, when I walk in a store, I look at the individual pieces, regardless of brand name or not. I just see what catches my eye and what's a unique design and what I like. And the brand doesn't matter to me personally. It's more about the piece and the design, and it's just, wow, that's I got to see that piece. Can I see that one? Can you take it out of the showcase? Regardless of brand or just a generic piece.
John, I think both you and Faye seem pretty design driven in your purchases. Faye, is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah, I'd be very interested in the brand. So John, we're similar, and then we're exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very interested in the brands. I want to know also, if I am interested in a brand, I want to know more about the brand. I want to know how old the brand is, how the brand start, what do they do? What do they do maybe for the environment? What do they do to think along the same lines that I'm thinking along? So I am interested in the brands, and it's almost an equal weight to what the piece looks like. I'm obviously not going to buy something that I don't like, but I'm definitely not going to buy from a brand that doesn't align with my sensibilities.
Interesting. Your social values. Very interesting.
I agree with that point. I think a lot more people are in tune to, they want to know more about the brand and what do you stand for, what are your values, your sustainability message, and how you go about how you treat employees and workers. Do those values align with mine? I think more and more, there's more people now, I think, in tune to that than there were maybe, 10 or 20 years ago, it seems.
Yeah. So, brand recognition, leaning towards the brand, not just for the big name, say, but rather the brand based on who they are, what kind of message they put out, what they're communicating with their brand.
Yeah, and I think brands are putting that out there more than they used to. I think, brands are putting that out there more than they used to.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we even see this trends of brands kind of, particularly when it comes to politics, and this is a whole nother thing we definitely won't get into, but when it comes to politics, brands being more public and more specific with this cause they support, this person they don't, and I think that's because more and more people are like both of you, like they want to buy a brand that aligns with their social values, so they don't, they used to try to play it neutral so they didn't lose anybody, but And now they kind of can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Can't be everything to everybody. And I think that brands initially went into it thinking that that's what young people want. They want brands that align with them. But, you know, I'm living proof, maybe John, you're living proof that that's not the case. You want to know, even people over 40 want to know what the brand is doing, you know?
Right. It's interesting for sure.
Yeah. For me, again, I'm not really brand specific. You know, when I go in a store, I'm just looking at the piece. And if I do see a piece and it is a brand, I'm not really, I don't dig any deeper than the sign in the case that says the brand name. I don't, you know, I don't really want to know more about them or anything like that. I'm looking at the piece itself, and that's kind of where it ends for me.
Okay, interesting.
Great. So I think we have one more question. I think we got through all of them for our talks, but I'm going to close with this one. Who, you know, in the trade, we talk a lot about the way lab grown and natural are both sort of communicating their product and how they might compare themselves to each other, and the rhetoric that they use. So somebody wanted to know if you had heard sort of the rhetoric against natural or against lab grown from either side, and whether or not that's had sort of any sort of impact on your thoughts about the products.
That's another really good question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the two industries should run down parallel tracks and not attack each other. You know, I think, you know, instead of attacking someone else, you know, put your value proposition out there and you know, why you should buy a lab grown or natural without knocking the other one. I think that's the approach. It should be, again, it's all the jewelry industry, right? It's all the same industry, the same trade. You know, if it offers another option to consumers, that's good. It gets them in the store. You know, if they want a lab grown, it gets them in the store, and they might buy something else too, not just a lab grown, but other pieces. But I think
or they might come back later and get a natural, or start getting interested in colored stones, or start getting interested in watches or something.
Yeah, right. My thought is it's one industry. They're both in the same industry, so they should not knock each other, but just run down parallel tracks and you know, just differentiate themselves in their own way, and why a consumer should buy a natural or a lab grown without knocking the other one. That's how I feel about it.
Absolutely. Anything to add, Faye?
I guess I would add that I agree they should not compete. You see a lot of that on LinkedIn or wherever. I think the more jewelry that people buy and the more gifts that people give and the more that they wear themselves increases the visibility of the industry as a whole. So I don't think one is cannibalizing the other. People who want to buy a real diamond buy a real diamond. People who want to buy synthetically treated stones so that it's red or green or bluer, that's I don't think it competes with a real natural ruby, a real natural emerald. So I think I totally agree. Please don't argue, just buy lots of jewelry and wear it, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I
think it also, for consumers, a lot of time too, it's going to come down to what they can afford. Maybe they would like this product, they would like an untreated stone, they would like a this, a that. But, you know, sometimes, you know, I did a story an issue we did probably came out about summer last year, about a year ago. And two of the people I talked to were saying for consumers, a lot of it comes down to price. And some people, they're attracted to lab grown because bottom line, they want a bigger diamond, and they can get a bigger diamond for less money, and that's it. And some people, size isn't their ultimate bottom line. But for some people, they say, I want a 2 carat natural diamond is out of my price range. But look, I can get a 2 carat lab grown for this much, and I can afford that. And sometimes for some people, size and price are their drivers, you know, so I think that's part of it too.
Right. Yeah, there's all different motivations by the consumer, you know.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again to our guests, John and Faye, so much for being here. That's our time for today. And thank you, of course, to Michelle for hosting. You can tune in for another episode of My Next Question next Thursday, July 22nd at 2 p.m. Again, that's Thursday, July 22nd at 2 p.m., where our senior editor, Fashion, Ashley Davis, will be joined by fine jewelry sales expert Nicole Ward to talk about how brands can get the attention of luxury department stores and cutting-edge independent fine jewelry retailers. You can read about it more on our website, and I'm dropping the link into the chat right about now. Thanks again for joining us today, and please take care.